What's up, millennials? Today I'm going to share with you my review of both DeGiro and also Trading212. I've got most of my money parked at DeGiro, but I also have some money at Trading212, and I'm just going to share with you my experiences. I've also been using DeGiro a little bit longer, or quite a bit longer actually, compared to Trading212. I think I've been at DeGiro for about a little bit more than 1 year now, and I've just been using Trading212 for a few months, so my experience with DeGiro is a little bit more broad compared to Trading212, so keep that in mind. And also keep in mind that we're just going to take a look at the web browser, not the app. I don't really use apps. I don't know why people do that. I prefer to have all of that on my screen, on my big screens, computer screens, and not on my small smartphone screen. So yeah, we're just going to take a look at the web browser version. So let's first talk about DeGiro, the good, the bad, and the ugly. One of the good things is for me that it is a Dutch platform, and I am actually living in the Netherlands because I'm Dutch myself. And I like it that it is Dutch because that does mean that it has to conform to the Dutch regulation as well. If you're in a different country, that of course is going to be a little bit different. Now, the first thing I want to mention is that I believe the Giro is quite basic, and I think that has a good part and a bad part as well. The good part is that it's very easy to use for beginners as well. It should be quite easy to use, but the bad thing is that it feels a little bit like flying with Ryanair almost. I'm not sure if you've ever flown with Ryanair, but it's a little bit like, yeah, sure, it gets you from point A to point B, but you're not going to get any free drinks or free meals. One of the things that is very clear to me when I have contact with the Giro via email is that they're an execution-only platform. They only execute your orders, and that's it. Apart from that, no customer service whatsoever. With regards to the user interface, it's quite basic as well. They could definitely optimize the user interface to make it a little bit more intuitive, I would say, but in general it is fair, it is fine. The only tabs that I use is my portfolio, also some transactions, the details of my transactions, and I also use the pages of the different individual stocks. So in this case we have, for example, Apple, and yeah, you just have a little bit of information, just a few graphs, some important information about the company itself, some news as well, so that could be useful to you as well. With regards to transaction fees and other fees, you basically have to pay a few euros per year to have an account at the Giro and also to have access to the different stock exchanges. And apart from that, you need to pay per transaction. It depends a little bit on which stock exchange you're going to buy stocks from. In Europe, it's more expensive compared to the United States, which is actually quite funny. But for United States stocks, so for American stocks, it's usually 50 cents per share, just like, per transaction rather. So just like you can see over here on the right-hand side, 50 cents per transaction in euros, euro cents, plus a few cents depending on how many shares you are actually going to buy. There's also a list of commission-free ETFs, which basically means that every month you can have one free transaction in a certain ETF, which is in this list of ETFs. Let's scroll down. So there's a whole list of certain ETFs you can buy for free. Just once per month you can have a free transaction, so that could be interesting to you. There are certain things you need to take into account. So if you want to do this, if you want to use this list of commission-free ETFs, at least check out this page that is on the screen right now. What I really miss about the Giro though is that they don't really have a lot of graphs. They sure do have some graphs like this one for the stock price of a certain stock, but they don't have any graphs for your return on investment or your total portfolio or the stocks that you actually own. So that is a little bit too bad. I also miss a language setting. As you can see, it is now in Dutch, and I can't change that to English, for example, so that is too bad as well. And they don't even have a dark mode. Apart from that, not all of the stocks are on the Giro, but they do actually have a very nice selection of stocks. Almost all stocks are on there. And if you encounter a stock that's not on the Giro, you can actually send them an email and they will usually put that stock in the Giro so you can trade that one. So if you want to do that, just contact them via email. Just send them an email saying, yo, I want this stock, put it on the Giro, and they'll usually take like 1 day in doing so, and then you can actually start trading it. One of the things that I really dislike about the Giro though is their lack of customer service. I've had multiple email contact with the Giro, but it's obviously clear to me that they don't really care too much about their customers. They care more about themselves, the company, the amount of money that they bring in, but they're not very customer centric in my opinion. When I contact them, it's very obvious to me that I don't really feel important and they are just an execution only company. They only execute my orders and they don't really care about anything else. Another thing I dislike is the amount of fees you need to pay in order to vote on a SPAC merger, for example. Right now we have a lot of SPACs going on, and I wanted to vote on a few SPACs actually, but I needed to pay 10 euros for them to vote for me, okay? 10 euros to vote for me. What I want to do is to democratize everything. I want to make sure that everyone is able to vote so that the SPAC voting is also democratized, but apparently DeGiro doesn't really care about that. So my conclusion for DeGiro is that it is a fine platform in general. It is relatively to use as well because it is so basic. And as they say, they are an execution-only company, so that has some good things and some bad things. It means that they are very basic in what they do, but it also means they're not very customer-centric in my opinion. I think if I had to grade DeGiro, I would probably give them a 6 out of 10, but if they would implement all the feedback from this video, for example, they'd easily go to 8 out of 10. I actually sent them feedback before multiple times, but never heard back from them, but okay. If they would make the platform and the customer service more customer-centric, I would definitely be a happier customer. Then let's talk about Trading212. So Trading212 is originally a company from Bulgaria, but they also have a company in England and Wales. It's quite funny, the address actually says 107 Cheapside. I thought that was quite funny. But I'm not entirely sure if it's a problem that they are originally from Bulgaria. I don't think so, honestly. They are both of these companies, so Trading212 UK Limited and also Trading212 Limited. These are both companies authorized and regulated by the financial authorities in those countries. With regards to the interface of DeGiro, I really like it actually. I like it more than DeGiro. It looks a little bit more modern, more millennial-ish. It has more graphs. It also tracks more the performance of my portfolio, so I definitely like that. They also provide additional features that DeGiro doesn't have. For example, the auto invest system, the auto invest functionality with a Pi system, just a little bit like M1 Finance in the United States, I believe. I haven't used this myself, but it is good to see that it has more functionality in comparison to DeGiro. What they also offer is fractional shares. I haven't used those myself either, but the fractional shares can be very useful if you want to buy a company with a high stock price, so companies with like a stock price of Amazon, for example, of more than $2,000 per share. And they also have, and I didn't even notice this before, but they also provide videos, especially for beginners, I believe, for videos about investing in the stock market. So that could be interesting to watch. And also, if you go to the settings over here, you can see that you can change the language, which I really like, and you can also change the theme to a dark theme. With regards to the fees and the transaction fees, well, good news, there are none. So I was actually wondering to myself, okay, so how do they make revenue? Because they, of course, need to make money as well. Well, according to my research, the majority of their revenue comes from these CFDs. I didn't really know what these meant, but apparently these are contracts for difference. You basically bet that the price of a stock is going to go up or down, and then you pay or get paid the difference between the current price and the future price. So apparently the most of their revenue comes from CFD trading instead of normal investing, normal stock trading. With regards to the customer service of Trading212, I can't really tell you too much because I haven't been engaging with them, but I did read some other reviews, and in general the customer service seems to be way better compared to DeGiro. One of the disadvantages, though, of Trading212 is that they offer fewer stocks compared to DeGiro. So sometimes I want to find a stock on Trading212, but it isn't there, so I have to go to DeGiro. But yeah, in general, there are fewer stocks. And sometimes I'm also a little bit annoyed if I'm still logged in after a few days, for example. Sometimes I check out my portfolio and I just leave my account open. I forget to check out, to log out, and then I come back like a few days later and I notice that I'm still logged in. So probably that has to be fixed. So in conclusion, with regards to my opinion about Trading212 is I think as a platform, I prefer Trading212 compared to DeGiro. If I would need to grade them, I'd probably give them a 7 out of 10. I'm not entirely sure about their customer service because I just haven't engaged with them. And they also offer fewer stocks compared to DeGiro, so that is a disadvantage. But yes, I do think they deserve a higher grade compared to DeGiro because they offer more functionality, more interesting features like auto invest, like fractional shares. Now you might say, okay, you like Trading212 more as a platform, but you have most of your money at DeGiro instead of Trading212. How is that? Well, the thing is, DeGiro is a Dutch company. It has to conform to the Dutch regulation as well, so it feels a little bit safer to me as an investor. However, if you're not from the Netherlands, I'd probably open an account at Trading212 first. But hey, while you're at it, you might also open just an account at DeGiro as well for the stocks you can't find on Trading212. So I'd really like to know your opinion. What do you find a better platform? Do you prefer DeGiro? Do you prefer Trading212? Or do you have an all different opinion together? Maybe there's another platform I haven't mentioned. With that being said, thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye!